Hey guys, Mrhappy here and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy. It's a weekly Q&A show I do where I also do any sort of channel announcements if I need to. This week though, we're going to strictly be focusing on the Q&A because last week I took a little bit too much time talking about the news. So let's get right to it. Gonna look at last week's videos, and if I need to, gonna look at Facebook, Twitter, and some of the videos before that for questions I've missed in the past. So let's get started. So on my screen, I'm actually going to start from the bottom and go up. Sometimes I start from the top and get to the bottom, and then I'm just shuffling through questions for the last few. So I'm going to start from the bottom up on this one. So the first question is, and I'm not sure I completely understand it, do you think that dungeons on Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn should be more interactive like on WoW? I'm assuming he means interactive, as in you have things like the cannons in Stone Vigil hard mode, and I think that those things can't be done half-assed. Like the cannons in Stone Vigil hard mode is not a very well done, interesting mechanic. Sure, on paper it sounds great. The boss is immune. You only have these cannons to shoot it. He spins, that even reflects your attacks. He spins towards you, so you have to move off the cannon. Add spawn that you can also destroy with the cannons. It'd be something if maybe you couldn't just sit on all four cannons almost the entire time and just, you know, barrage him to death. Like maybe if there was something for the tank and the healer to actually do other than that, and maybe occasionally grab an enemy or heal one of the NPCs or something. But it needs to be done well, and I think that was their first attempt at sort of doing it. I'm hoping to see them look a little bit more into it. Obviously they've had, or the original Stone Vigil used cannons as well, and throughout Stone Vigil hard mode. I just feel like it needs to be more interesting, and I would also like to see more lore-based aspects, not so much a simple start from here, run to the end, where you could have things like gauntlets and things like you have a limited amount of time to do a certain activity. I would be a fan of dungeons with themes like that. So yes, I would like to see the dungeons be more than just run from point A to B and kill everything along the way. I would like to see that. This one is something that I think is pretty simple. What do you think they should do with all the level 50 dungeons once the level cap increases? I mean, there's going to be 19 of them by 2.5. Surely that would be odd when 50 is no longer the cap. Well, you got to remember that they said that the expansion would have about as much content as when the game initially launched. Now, when the game initially launched, a piece of the content was leveling all the classes for a lot of people. So I'd imagine that that's going to be offset, excuse me, by not having like 8 classes to level, but, you know, have maybe the 1 or 2 new ones that we're expecting, and you know, on top of that, maybe fill in what the other 7 were expected to do. As for what to do with the old level 50 dungeons, just let people go in solo. I'm really waiting for that to happen when they finally let us go into past dungeons solo or with smaller groups, because you know, things like pony farming for the extreme primals, at some point people are going to want to just do that 3 or 4 man constantly, you know, not just those few select groups that can do it now, but with the level cap increase, doing those kind of things will be really easy for mount farming. And you know what, that's something WoW has over almost every game, is when you're bored, you can just go solo old content and look for any of the rare items that are still around, but you're still going to have to farm them out, and it's able to be done alone now instead of with a group. So I'm looking forward to that. I think they shouldn't do anything with it. I think they'll have an entirely new set of dungeons leveling up to the new max level, and then probably a select between 3 and 5 at max level, similar to what they did maybe by 2.1, so maybe they'll go for 5. They might just only go for 2 or 3, but we'll just have to really wait and see. This one is something I actually do want to address. I've been watching your sightseeing log. I have found the one where it's 51 to 60. Did you ever finish them, all of them? No, and it's mostly because people didn't care. Like, a lot of people don't care about the sightseeing log. It was very, very select, and there was so many Excel sheets that just had all the information. It's nice to be able to show people where it is, and if there's a demand, I will finish them. But for the most part, people were just not excited to see those videos go online ever, because waiting around for the sightseeing logs is not most people's idea of fun. And to be honest, it wasn't that fun for me either, but it was finally exciting when I finished all 80 of them. So if there's a demand, yeah, I'll do it. Alright, here's one that's also really simple to answer. I actually answered it on another video, and it might be this guy who asked it on the other video, but just in case, I will answer it now. Here's another question, something I've been wondering for a while. The way you enter second coil, do you think you'll be ever able to just select second coil for Duty Finder? Yes, you'll be able to do that in 2.4. I'm personally not a fan of how second coil is implemented, because you can't really practice on it if it's your first time. That's how all the newest raid content is done. You're meant to go in with a group of people, preferably a group from your free company or a link shell, or even just a group you met on the Party Finder. but the newest, highest tier raids, just duty find. First of all, just using the duty finder for those. Yeah, you might get some practice in, but that's what you'll get at the very best for the most part. You probably won't get too many. I'm expecting turn 6 will be very successful in the duty finder. Actually, turn 8 may or may not be. It depends on how many people are brand new or how many people experience it. Turn 9 is going to be like turn 5 in the duty finder. I wouldn't hold high expectations to that. And turn 7, the Echo is going to make that fight even worse. So it's really tough to say, but they'll be there. The second coil and Savage second coil will both be in the duty finder in 2.4. The third coil won't be. I almost forgot to mention that. This one is a good question. Mr. Happy, will you be making a Ninja guide for when it comes out? Also, how difficult do you think Ninja will be this time around? Not right when it comes out. You know, I think I've learned from my my error with my older guides, where I would kind of just like look at the job. And yeah, a lot of jobs are really simple to figure out how to play them at their base. But my guides were never, when I first did them, never meant to be a mastery level guide. It was always something to get people used to the multiple mechanics, because you can try and explain to somebody who has no idea how to play a job the best way to play the job right away, or you can ease them into it. Like my Scholar guide has a lot of things in there. You won't see Scholars do those things 99% of the time. And Scholars who are super overgeared for content start ignoring certain things altogether because they heal for so much that they don't have to care anymore. You know, Eloquiums, they can just use those once in a while instead of using Physic as their main heal. But ultimately, I would like to make a guide for it. I'll at least do a video overviewing all the abilities when it first comes out, but not a legit guide. I want to get my time and play it in at least second coil with, you know, maybe some people from my free company, get some good practice and make sure that I can keep a steady rotation, find out all the tricks and things like that, and then make a Ninja guide. So maybe not for 3 weeks to a month after it comes out. Alright, here's a question I like. What is your favorite pre-50 dungeon in Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn? If you don't like pre-50 dungeons, what is your favorite post-50 dungeon? Pre-50 is actually a pretty tough one. Stone Vigil, I really like the original one. It's the first dungeon that really has that sort of combination of, you know, you don't belong here and all this stuff hits really friggin' hard. So it's kind of like the first dungeon that is, to me, super hard. I know a lot of people will consider Brayflox to be the one when you're a brand new player that can cause you problems the very most. Mostly if you're an inexperienced or undergeared healer or tank, it can be an absolute disaster for you. But you know what? Yeah, I'd have to go with Stone Vigil. I like the atmosphere of it, but I like your choice, Hawk Manor. Hawk Manor was a really good one, was really high on my list, but I really do like Stone Vigil, the original one. People are gonna hate me for saying that. Alright, well, here's a Destiny question, and despite my recent hate for the game, that's a whole I should probably make a whole nother video that's a lot more professional than my comments on YouTube. For Mondays with Mr. Happy on the 22nd, how are the stats for PvP weighted in Destiny? So everything is brought into an equal. All of your stats are pretty much equaled out on your weapons. Like it's hard to describe. Like it says level advantage is disabled. So, but obviously you can have more abilities on your thing, on your class. You can have special stats. Like if you have a weapon that reloads faster on if you kill with the last shot, those stats stay. As for the strength, discipline, and intellect, they feel regulated to me. I don't ever feel like somebody's getting it faster, but if you have stats like melee kills get you more super and things like that, that throws it off. So I feel like strength, intellect, and discipline are all leveled out. Also, the attack values are all leveled out, but things like impact, rate of fire, and special abilities, they're all on there for PvP. In the Iron Banner, your stats, all of them, will be activated, and level advantages will be completely enabled. So you kind of want to have good gear if you plan to go into the Iron Banner when it comes out. Alright, this is a I've actually been asked to make a video about this, a Scholar versus White Mage video, and I wanted to avoid that because ultimately, at some point, the versus videos were pointless because the jobs are in the game are all near equal. There are some that are, you know, can do certain things better than others, but this is a question. When do you think it's better to have a Scholar over a White Mage or a White Mage over a Scholar? Never. We want one of each. One of each is just better. It's hard to describe why it's better because I can see the allure of two White Mage. I really can. I can see the allure of having the extra person to stone skin. I can see the allure of having the extra big heals, the extra benediction, the double medica 2s, the double medicas. You know, you never need a cure 3 or anything along those lines. But for most serious endgame content, the preventative healing of a scholar, preventative meaning they use something like Succor or Eloquium or Sacred Soil even, it's not healing, but it does prevent damage from being dealt, comes in a lot of handy towards reducing the amount of heals that need to be outgoing. The only thing that's really, I don't know, might be double White Mage might be better. You know what? It's really hard for me to say. I just think you should have one of each. Double White Mage to me isn't better than Scholar White Mage. They are designed to complement one another. Now, this is a question that I have seen and answered a lot on my Twitch chat for well over a year now. Not well over a year, because the game's only been out for 13 months, so okay, bad numbers. Regardless, the question is buying primals with gills actually legal in the game? Yes, that is an art that has been in MMOs for well over a decade. It's called merking, you know, taken from the word mercenaries, and it's completely legal. Unless, of course, you start buying them in real money, then it's not legal. Buying any service in the real game in the game with the real money, other than what's offered like a Fantasia, is not allowed in the game. But it's something that's perfectly legit. There's a market for it. People want it. It's perfectly legit. In Final Fantasy XI, I did a fair share of merking, but in Final Fantasy XI, enemies would only respawn once every 3 days, and if your group didn't need the drops, and your group was the only one killing it, then you might as well make sure that somebody else was able to do it. You're not going to give up the kill. You're going to make some money off of it. But with primals, it's a little bit weird for me, because in Final Fantasy XI, you usually didn't merc things for progression's sake. You merked things that people just couldn't get their hands on. They weren't absolutely necessary, but they were really top tier on what they dropped. So it's a little bit different. I don't like merking in Final Fantasy XIV. I don't like doing it, but I think that it's something that's perfectly allowed and perfectly legal. I've got no problem for other people that want to do it. It's just not something that I like to do. Oh, Meister, you had to ask this. Haven't you asked this question in my Twitch chat, Meister? I swear you have. Will you be playing Final Fantasy XII and possibly live stream it if it gets an HD remaster like Final Fantasy X did? Yeah, of course I will. I actually want to stream Final Fantasy IV, but right now I'm having some bad troubles with my router. So I'm hoping that gets shipped soon, because I keep getting disconnected from Destiny. I keep getting disconnected from Final Fantasy XIV. It's not good, and sometimes my download speeds and upload speeds, which are supposed to be 50 and 25, have been as low as 3 and 1. So something's really messed up with my router, and unfortunately, I'm nowhere close to being able to run a wire down there to plug it in directly, unless I want to drill some holes in the wall and all that fun stuff. So, yeah, I would like to do that. Alright, we actually had a fair bit of questions. Also, when I was scrolling from top to bottom, a lot of people were just commenting on the video as opposed to asking questions. Another reason why I started from the bottom going up, it seemed like the perfect opportunity to do it. But now I'm actually finding the middle, and there's a lot of questions here. I think I'm hitting the final few questions on the video maybe until it gets to mostly just comments. So I'm going to answer, this is going to be my honorary, just a couple more. I'm going to answer 2 more from YouTube, and I'm going to answer 1 from Twitter that I got just before I started recording. So, this one. So how is the expansion going to work as far as release? Or more specifically, are they going to be patching all the way through to the 2 series and then the expansion would be 3? Meaning, are we going to see 2.5, 2.6, 2.7, and I'm assuming by etc. he means 2.8, 2.9. Because if this is the case, we'd be looking at an April 2016 release. No. As soon as an expansion is done and released, it immediately goes to 3.0. World of Warcraft, I know people hate me talking about that, but it's a solid example. 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, and 5.4, and then they are now going into 6.0 before Warlords of Draenor. They're not doing 5.5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. It's just as soon as it's literally just the first number represents the expansion, and the second number just is how many major patches that you're in. And then, of course, the smaller numbers can be used to designate in-between patches and things like that. So, no, we're not going all the way to 2.9. 2.5 is potentially the last one before the expansion. We may see a 2.6, but it's looking like a between May and September release for the expansion of 2015. And this has to be the last question for YouTube. Could you explain PvP in Final Fantasy XIV for me? Any? because I really want some of the armors for Glamour, but I honestly know nothing about it or how it works. I've been told it's a race to see who kills the other healers first, but is it honestly that simple? On a lot of fronts, that is the most consistent strategy to go for, and a lot of the times, if your team isn't on the same page, it doesn't work. And that's front lines that we're really talking. Front lines and Wolves Den, that can really be the plan. But if that plan fails, having a backup plan really helps. In a lot of other games, it's more popular to maybe CC the healer and burst down one of the damage dealers, or to, if you're, depending on your job, like if you're a summoner, spread your damage over the entire other team, so that, and chase the healer and CC people, so that way they can't just heal up after all the damage you do. That's really more things that are personal, like in the Wolves Den, where you'd worry about strategies like that. You can do them in front lines, but unless you're in a small skirmish, it usually doesn't work that well. Front lines, if you want the armor, you just really got to go in and play it. Whether or not you win, just if your team gives you a plan, just follow the plan. Kill, if they mark somebody, just, you know, kill who they're marking. If you don't want to be a leader, just go in there and just do your best. You don't have to win every game. You actually get a lot of credit for losing front lines matches. It's still going to take you a while to get to rank 40 though, so as of right this video, you should probably get on that. Also, if you have really long queue times in the front lines, you may want to seek changing your grand company. I know it doesn't sound like a great thing to do, but it is a real possibility. You may need to do that if your queue times are too long. I'd give it a day or two worth of queue times though to find out. And the last question that I'm going to be taking is from Twitter. He commented, one of my fans on Twitter. He tweets me every week, so when I saw that and I knew I hadn't started recording yet, I definitely wanted to include it. Mr. Happy, I'm probably too late for Mondays with Mr. Happy. What are your thoughts on getting another DPS as opposed to a tank healer? Obviously in reference to Ninja as opposed to another tank healer. Here's how I ultimately feel. There's a reason why there's more DPS than anything else. It's because they're the most fun to play for a lot of people. People who like playing tanks or healers, they like playing tanks or healers. Usually introducing a new tank or healer, while it will increase some, it will increase the queue times temporarily, it's not like everybody is going to want to play those jobs. If you don't like tanking and you don't like healing, it's not a shoo-in way of getting people to switch roles to just introduce a new one. Usually people who like tanking will just pick a tank that they like best. People who like healing will pick a healer they like best. It's very rare that somebody who loves DPS jobs will see a new tank or a new healer come out and be like, I want to play that instead. It happens, don't get me wrong, but it's not something that's so super common that introducing a DPS first versus a new tank or a healer is going to offset. Again, this is going to temporarily offset it in the other way, where everyone's leveling a DPS and it's harder to find tanks or healers, but it's not going to, in the long run, mess everything up, in my opinion. There's a chance it could, but it really shouldn't, considering the fact that the tanks and the healers will level their Ninja and then go back to tanking and healing. They'll probably have some fun on Ninja, but they're going to go back to tanking and healing. Alright guys, so almost 20-minute video. I don't know what it's going to come to between questions. Like I have to cut out some sort of like empty space where I'm just like checking my phone and things like that. So I'm going to get to, editing this, rendering it, putting it up on YouTube. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Be sure to ask questions for next week. I've been getting so many questions, it's been hard to get back to the old YouTube questions. So if there's a question that you haven't, that you asked and I haven't answered, feel free to ask it on the videos, because I have not even been able to go back to the old videos with how long these videos have been lasting. So thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and tune in next week for next week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy, and I will see you guys then. So take care.